I am so happy and also so proud and honored to be hosting Professor Binod Khadria. He is a great friend of mine, but I consider him my mentor. He has taught economics, education, and migration at the Jawaharlal Nehru University for more than 3 decades. He's a committed scholar. He has a lot of students that considers him a rock star in real time. And this is the reason why he was awarded the opening the ICCR Chair of Contemporary Indian Studies at Rutgers University. And he's been working a lot with the United States, with the IOM, in terms of being one of the most important collaborators in the publishing of the World Migration Report to 2020. And also his most recent publication was being the co-editor of a Sage Handbook of International Migration in the year 2019. Welcome, Binod. And I'm so happy to see you. I get so emotional whenever I see you so far.
Thank you for the extraordinary praise showered on me, which makes it more difficult for me to do justice to this panel here. But it is very inspiring to listen to the initial presentations. And I'm glad Professor Mehta has mentioned about Statue of Liberty and taken us back in history. And if I am to address the topic of the day, which is lessons from India and Mexico, of course, I'll speak about India, then the lessons go back to 500 years ago, because that is when America was discovered by Christopher Columbus, made a mistake, thought it was India, and the natives were started to be called Native Indians or Red Indians later on by the British, which are not any more respectable terms to be used. But we are aware of the fact that the nation of immigrants, the term that has been used, is actually particular immigrants. They are not for the entire world. They are for the Europeans, because who displaced the Africans, who annihilated the Native Americans. So we need to look into the details of history if we need to draw lessons from history. I would like to evoke that the history is not only with bad examples, it has also very good examples. And that is where I'm reminded, I'm inspired to read out Emma Lazarus's that sonnet, which is placed on a plaque in the Statue of Liberty. And it allow me a minute to say, keep ancient lands, you storied pomp, and you know who the pomp is now. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. The golden door still remains golden for Indians. As Mehta had said, the H-1B visa holders are all highly skilled people, but United States was not welcoming the unskilled people to begin with. In 1917, the Congress was debating what is called the literacy test bill, and that was opposed, that was vetoed by Woodrow Wilson, who otherwise is known to have racist tendencies. He himself vetoed this 3 times, but the US Congress passed it to stop Indians, Chinese, Fijians, and people of Asiatic origin who were not literate in the English language. That came to my mind that was a challenge. And ironically, within 50 years, the Indians, the Chinese that went to the United States were at the top of the line, the model minority. They were the highly educated, the best educated, the highest income earners, and they were the model minority. If we look at the census, US census, we get a feel of that. We do not have time. I have only 7 to 8 minutes, so I have to be very brief. And I would say that history also has very good examples, like Abraham Lincoln abolished slavery in 1850 because the slaves were brought as immigrants from they were already there, but they were enslaved in the United States and so on. So I would like to say that by the middle of the century, by the Indian IIT professionals, IIT graduates who were, under the India's 5-year plans of development, where these 5 IITs were set up, they brought out these graduates onto the market, but there were no jobs for them. They became unemployed. And that is when the United States attracted them to NASA to help them in their space research and in their competition against the Russian Sputnik mission. That, I think, has even now today, why there is so much of rush for getting admission into the IITs. That is because that is the golden gate. That is the passport to United States of America. So in that background, if you look at these issues, then we have seen ups and downs in H-1B visas, in other kinds of visas. In fact, Barack Obama, for example, introduced H-4 visa, which was to give work authorization to the spouses of H-1B visa holders that Trump is trying to undo now. And those are some of the lessons, because I'm trying to focus on the lessons, and I have said it many times that we do talk about good practice guidelines, but we have to also talk about bad practice guidelines. And this is what we are experiencing now, the bad practices. And those bad practices are already there, which can be phased out, hopefully, when the regime changes, when the new election takes place. Perhaps we need to identify, talk about the bad practices and try to phase them out. Good practices are not there forever. Good practices do not fall from the heaven as manna from the heaven. So we need to focus on both of them and invent good practices if they do not exist already. So if we look at India, then 1952 Act is mentioned there. Until then, there were only 100 people from India in the United States because it was connected with the ratio of the population already in the United States. It was 1965 Act, Immigration and Nationality Act, that abolished the quota, that brought Indians at par with all other countries. And that is when the unemployed IIT graduates could immediately go to NASA and to fill up. And subsequently, by the end of the century, to cut a long story short, it was the IT professionals, the IT revolution, which flooded the Silicon Valley and the entire technological revolution that took place in the United States was on the shoulders of the Indian techies. That cannot be forgotten. And what happened? At that time, recession struck 1992, and then subsequently Y2K fear actually drove these Indians to give up Indian nationality, Indian citizenship, and they naturalized themselves into the American citizenship because India does not allow dual citizenship. That was one of the peak of the naturalization rate. And subsequently, when India enacted what is called the OCI, Overseas Citizenship of India, which was almost like a dual citizenship, excepting that you cannot stand in elections, Indian elections, you cannot buy plantation lands, but short of that, you have every other right that a citizen can have. That was 2006, when this was done for roping in the diaspora to bring in investment in India. But I had predicted at that time that it would boomerang, it would not give the desired results, it would rather drive them off to give up Indian citizenship, take the OCI and become American citizens, and at the same time enjoy all the rights under OCI in India. And exactly that happened. That was a peak in 2008. So it's entirely, if we have to draw the lessons, we have to draw the lessons from both sides. It's back and forth. It's an interrelationship between two countries that we need to look into. So I would like to say, as Professor Mehta has mentioned, immigration policy making itself has been a democratic process in the Congress, but there have been times like this, the present times, when the executive order overrides. You have Article 212F, which actually comes handy to dictators for putting in place what they want to in terms of violating the democratic rights of the people, not only of one country, but of many countries. So this is where we see that there are issues, there are lessons that we can draw. If we look at various issues, there are professionals, of course, H-1B, there are naturalized American Indian citizens, there are green card holders, the LPR, the permanent residents, and then there are temporary residents like H-1B, and then there are students, a large number of students. India, China, these are at the top, Mexico, Vietnam, these are the countries, Korea, these are the countries which are sending the largest number of students that supports the American universities and makes education, overseas education, the 5th largest export earning industry in the United States. That is being threatened. Even that is being threatened. And why White House backtracked? Because there was threatening by MIT, by Harvard to come with lawsuits, and techie giants like Google and Amazon also threatened. That was for the first time that the F-1B visa ban was withdrawn. But what followed? What followed was that the industry cannot fire American citizens. It can fire Indian citizens holding jobs, but American citizens cannot fire. So we do not know in the pipeline what new inventions and innovations are likely to come and how they are going to challenge us, what lessons they will give us for posterity. That, I think, is very, very important. We need to refer to Silicon Valley because we do have Silicon Valley of India in Bangalore, which also is having Infosys, Wipro. These are technical giants in India. They are being bleeded by the visa fee rise of the H-1B. It is more than $6,000 now for Indian companies. If they are American companies, they don't have to. There is a discriminatory pricing for H-1B visas. So we have to learn those lessons. That I think is very, very important. And to come back, what is important, the lesson that is important is that there is a great degree of selectivity. Diversity is passé. Nobody talks about diversity anymore. It is a great deal of selectivity that you choose the best and the brightest, not the huddled masses, but the best and the brightest. That need to come. And that is what policies are driving us to, not only the American policies, all destination countries, mostly. It's a question of degree, not of the kind. That I think, and I would put a question mark whether India is also going the same way. That I think is a question mark that we need to reflect upon. So I would like to end by saying that where is the future? Where is the future where we can use these lessons? What use are these lessons if we cannot use them? Because we talk about multilateral negotiations, but immigration has always been a hot potato, which is not on the table of the multilateral negotiations. No country wants to give up sovereignty. In the name of sovereignty, it is not put on the table. For the first time, GCM has been a success story. For that, Kofi Annan started 16 years back in 2002, and it took 16 years for people to come back to the table. But the day it was to be signed, Trump withdrew, and then Hungary withdrew, and then Australia threatened, and now not all the countries are signatories of GCM, which is not binding on the countries. That I think is important. So we have to understand that world is not a level playing field. Multilateralism is not a level playing field. There are negotiations within negotiations. And that is why we have to call the shots and say enough of multilateralism. We at the best can have bilateralism. If that does not work, we have to have unilateralism. And that is what our national poet, Rabindranath Tagore, had written in Bengali language, Ekla cholo re. If nobody responds to your call,
Professor,
walk alone. Thank
Professor
you.
Khadria. Okay. Can you wrap up, Izetta? Can we
Yeah,
wrap up?
I have
Thank you
finished.
so much. Thank you very much. It is so relevant that you have highlighted the virtues of history, and they should organize another fora in order to discuss who has the right to define who are the best and the brightest, which is quite a controversial issue to address when we are talking about migration.